You know Kyle Madsen, right?
Yep.
Former 95.7 The Game producer.
I think he
And
was gone. I was gone by the time he got there, but I do know him. Yes.
yeah, he's a good dude. He writes now for Niner Wire, and he works hard. He's doing some radio
Him
up
and
in Sac.
Biederman do a
Yeah,
podcast.
they do. Okay, I haven't caught his podcast with Biederman, though I do like Biederman too. But he writes for Niner Noise, which is a Niner entity, kind of like Niners Nation or 49er Web Zone or whatever. And these sites do a nice job. And if you're a Niner fan, I'm sure you've all seen these sites. Anyway, Madsen's got an article up that I think is really interesting, and he just talks about, and it's like there's one part of me that's a little uncomfortable when I look at the Niners as far as making any kind of like prediction of what they're going to be, and I couldn't put my finger on what exactly makes me uncomfortable about handicapping how good they are, and it's the 22 draft. And he's talking about there's 6 guys from that 22 draft: Danny Gray, Kalia Davis, Drake Jackson, Spencer Burford, Samuel Womack, and what's the Brock Purdy's roommate? Nick Zakel.
Dick.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, those 6 guys. So those 6 guys, Gray was a third. Drake was a second. Burford was a fourth. They and all these guys are kind of in that mode of like, I mean, Gray has got 1 catch in his career. Kalia Davis is, big and fast and looks awesome in practice and has never established himself. Drake had 3 sacks against the Steelers last year. It looked like he was headed for a banner year, and then it just all evaporated. And then he got hurt, and he was done for the year. And you get the sense that there's some disappointment about what he's produced. Burford regressed in year 2, but he started in year 1. Womack looked really, really, really good, like as good as Lenore, I thought, in training camp last year, only to totally evaporate as the season went on, and he was inactive for all the playoff games. And Zakel has never gotten a sniff, and I don't know if he's a guard, a center, a tackle. He was a tackle in college. But those 6 guys, and I'm just kind of wondering what you think of those 6 guys. Are the Niners 0 for 6 there? Or is of those 6 guys, who do you have the most hope actually has another chapter, finds another level, realizes their potential? Gray's got huge speed. Kalia Davis is an interior pass rusher that's got talent. Drake's got talent. Burford, in some ways, is the prototype physically for what you're looking for in a guard. Womack, to me, looked like he was close to a couple pick sixes 2 years ago. And Zakel is, on paper, a great prospect. He's big, he's long, he's versatile, he's tough, he's smart, but he hasn't played. So of those 6 guys, if you're telling me they go 0 for 6, then I don't feel as good about the Niners. If you're telling me that 2 of those guys emerge as significant, contributors, now I feel better. If there's anything, if it's 3, 4, 5, or all 6, I feel really good. So where are you on those 22 draft choices?
2 things. 1, I think you'd have to say Burford. He's the only one that plays.
Right.
2,
Womack used to play. I don't know what happened there.
2, they it affects them in 2025 more than it affects them in 2024. More than it affects them this year, it affects them in 2 seasons. So, I mean, it's a significant thing. Now, they can course correct for 25 if they hit, if they make up the difference with this class, or if Jair Brown establishes himself as truly a reliable playmaking starting safety in the NFL out of the 23 class, So, I mean, that might be an empty class. It really might be. I was hopeful for Drake Jackson. That was the guy I was hopeful out of that group.
I mean, he's a great guy to talk to, and he wants it. It's not for lack of desire. It's just he hasn't been able to build up enough strength.
Yeah, well, I mean, he ran out of gas his rookie year, understandably, and he had so many different, positions in college that he needed time. And look, they have signed past him. They've really emphasized again what they always emphasize: their defensive line, not just starters at defensive line, but depth at defensive line. It's going to be harder this year, maybe for him even if he's a better player than it was his rookie year, where he had more opportunity, right? He had more opportunity slated 2 years ago than he has guaranteed opportunity this year. It just passes you by quickly when you're on a team trying to win a championship. So the Niners have not waited for Drake Jackson. They have signed other players around him, drafted other players around him, but signed other players around him mostly. And, I think that they had to because they're trying to win in 2024. So, I think it's a concern. It'd be great to have had a linebacker or a pass rusher or whatever out of that class, a starting right guard where you don't need to rotate John Feliciano at right guard. Would have been great. But I think when you look at the Niners' moves, mostly they have signed players. They have built this team as if they are not holding their breath and waiting on the class of 2022 any longer. They can't afford to. And hopefully for them in 2025, the class of 23 and 24 will have made up the gap. But at this point, that is a lost draft. I mean, there's, if you get one guy, if you tell me this, Larry, that in 2025, one of the guys you just mentioned is starting for the 49ers, at this point, I think you'd have to take it because only one of them currently starts and plays half the snaps, and that's Burford. So it feels like a lost draft at this point. They've drafted receivers over Danny Gray. So I don't think they're holding their breath with that group, and I don't think anybody else should be either. I move on. Mistakes.
Well, I know it might be a total zero type situation. Danny Gray is probably going to do everything he can to salvage his career this summer. So we'll see, but I don't have a lot of confidence that, that he's got the toughness to be able to take the kind of hits that the NFL brings you on a weekly basis. Kalia Davis, I think, has got a troublesome knee and doesn't really play with leverage against the run. So he's kind of a situational rusher at best. He'll be fighting like a, absolute dog for his spot this summer because, as you said, they've added other guys and they're no longer on scholarship, these players. Drake, I do have hope for that he still can contribute something. And I do have hope for Womack because I really think Womack's got a lot of talent and could play right away and will play right away. And he'll play in the NFL for a long period of time because corners are hard to find. He can cover. Zakelj and Burford, I don't know what to think of these offensive linemen. I mean, Zakelj has never been able to get on the field. He seems like when he does, he's too slow. Burford regressed significantly last year, and I'm not sure why. So, yeah, I guess if I was looking at these six guys, even though Burford on paper looks like he's the closest to, regular snaps and that kind of thing, I would say Womack would be the guy that I have the most confidence in being good. Drake would be the second guy, and I think Burford might be number 3.
Okay.
But
I
like Drake. I do like Drake a lot, and I think that he's flashed some really good stuff. Right, he bats down passes. He can play inside. He's got greater strength at the point of attack as a run defender in some ways. But he's physically he has the tools. Yeah, I mean, and he's he bats down passes. He's got some nice things there, but defensive line more than some of the other positions is a technique-rich position, and that's why guys have success late in their career and they hang around and they can sack the quarterback. Drake's in that early stage where he's got some of the physical gifts, but he doesn't have a lot of the technique, and now he needs to get coached up and he needs to get in better shape and stronger and put it all together. So huge summer for all 6 of those guys.